Metawa XLR here with you, another reaction video. This time it's going to be on the Simpsons series, but it's telling the story in the future. And yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to have enough time for this, but it's kind of, this is not exactly game theory, so you know what, I'm just going to start this anyway. 3, 2, 1, start.
The Simpsons is one of our greatest cultural monoliths. Springfield is so entrenched in the mind of a staggering portion of global humanity. To try and sum up 32 seasons and who knows how many spin-offs, games, comics, and whatever of these in a single theory is like getting two Marvel fans to agree on anything. Simply impossible. Can't be done. Nope. Anyway, have any of you heard the theory that Bart is actually the narrator of the entire show, and he's been telling all of the stories in the future, How I Met Your Mother style? Ahem. Cowabunga.
Son, could you put me in 3D for a second? Why, you little...
Okay, so what evidence is there that Bart is secretly the future narrator for all of the stories told in The Simpsons? Let's start with what might charitably be called circumstantial or contextual evidence. Bart's position within the sorta kinda meta hierarchy of the Simpsons brand. See, if any of the main family members were to be the de facto narrator of the series, it would probably either have to be Homer or Bart, but especially Bart. Bart is one of the most seen, most focused on, and most typically spun off characters in the Simpsons nuclear family. It's believable that there might be more to Bart's role than at first meets the eye. Also, as Homer becomes more and more of a caricature throughout the seasons, Bart follows the opposite arc, becoming more and more nuanced. Another admittedly pretty threadbare piece of potential evidence is the fact that unlike Marge, Maggie, Homer, or Lisa, Bart isn't named after anyone in Simpsons creator Matt Groening's real family. This doesn't mean anything on its own, but the fact that Bart, one of the most visible, iconic, and important characters in the series, was perhaps created more deliberately to serve a certain role in the story. Bart also holds the crown for most notable catchphrases in the series.
Eat my shorts. I love that. Is that a popular expression, like what the deuce?
Probably more popular.
And that sort of constant, easily recognizable character bit can be used as a signal to the audience that a certain character matters more than others. But speaking of other characters, easily the most trenchant evidence in favor of the Bart as narrator theory is that Bart is actually one of the least comically heightened or caricatured characters in the series. Even more powerful is the point that almost all of the other denizens of Springfield, especially Bart's own family, bring their own unique brand of crazy to the mix. But each individual brand of extra makes a lot of sense if it's actually the product of biased narration from Bart himself. Take The Simpsons proper and imagine how Bart's perspective might shape their portrayal. Homer, with whom Bart often quarrels, is garrulous and lazy, prone to bouts of sudden violence, and often the first to blame Bart when something goes wrong. Isn't that how you'd expect a troublesome child to reminisce about a disliked parent? On the flip side, Marge, with whom Bart shares a more tender relationship, is often portrayed as a hyper-competent, ready-for-anything semi-divine mother. Lisa, who the series makes clear Bart realizes is smarter than him, is shown as both brilliant and annoying. This exaggerated portrayal of characters in relation to Bart's view of them holds true for others like Barney, who might only be the town drunk because Bart associates Barney with his father's time at Moe's, as well as the preeminent Sith Lord-like evilness of Mr. Burns. Isn't it believable that a child might see the boss their father complains about as a sort of larger-than-life monster?
I will grow up and act like a 20-year-old, the way a divorced 40-year-old should.
Bart's predicted futures are more consistent in outlook than most other characters. Two things are almost always true. Bart always grows up into some kind of failure, and Lisa always grows up into some kind of success, like becoming the president or a famous artist or scientist. This dynamic between Bart and Lisa, that Bart knows she's the smarter sibling, is honestly the most compelling evidence to me. If Lisa were the
Logical.
narrator, is Lisa the kind of person to consistently display herself as perfect and Bart as worthless? No. Would Homer or Marge? No, probably not. But is it believable that the only consistent through line in the narrative of a potentially traumatized child would be their own sense of worthlessness? Yeah. Wait, how did trauma get into this? Well, Consider this. What if Bart's memory is inconsistent, his narration is troubled, and his view of himself disjointed because of the trauma he endured because of Sideshow Bob? See, if the events of the show depicting Bart's relationship with the erudite murderer are even close to accurate, like at all, it would mean that Bart, all of 10 years old at the time, suffered under the pursuit of a truly dangerous and deranged adult man. Even if it's all a slight exaggeration, Sideshow Bob first appeared in the 8th episode of Season 1. That's pretty early on, all things considered, and I think it's possible that their interactions would provide a devastating fulcrum upon which Bart's long, troubled retelling of his youth might hinge.
Do you ever feel regret, Bart?
I regret starting this conversation.
Is Bart really narrating from the future? Probably not, but what makes fan theories like these fun to play with is their absurdity, right? It's not about the truth, it's about saying, wouldn't it be cool if one little twist could make an entire era of television?
To be fair, this is kind of logical in a sense. Anyways, that was the Simpsons theory. Bart's telling the story in the future. Yeah. That's all I have to say. Without further ado, this is Josh, Nintendo Metawana XLR, signing off. And remember, you may not be the best guy, but you don't have to act like the bad guy.